Hey everyone, welcome to the CSI Secret Store community call. Today is April 17th, 2025. This call follows the CNCF Code of Conduct and then it'll be recorded and published to YouTube. If you already haven't, please add your name to the attendee list. Um, we have a small agenda, but really quick in terms of announcements, we published driver 1.5.0 release last week. So please try that out and let us know. One major thing was we are also now building images for Windows 2025. Previously, we only had till 2022. So now we're also doing it for 2025 in this one. And then apart from that, there were like dependency updates and like few other things that went in. Uh, I can moderate the call. Anyone wants to volunteer for taking notes? Thank you, Ben. Okay. I think we only have one item on the agenda. And Joe, do you want to talk about it?
Yeah, can you add my name to the attendees? I was trying to do that, and I don't think I can do that. So, um, yeah, the item is this one, the link in the agenda, which is that's to kind of a summarized discussion about trying to provide a way to fetch a path of secrets from the different provider, fetch a path of secrets from the secret store and provide that in the mounted volume. And there's no way to express that in the secret store provider and except as individual secrets, which has problems in one, tediousness, and two is performance. These path operations are executed in bulk, and if you tried to fetch a whole path individually, you'd be rate limited on some clouds, AWS in particular. So it's a very popular issue there in the secret store root project, and then there's an example. There's a corresponding project in every provider that I could find when I looked a few months ago. That's also probably pretty popular. And there's been some discussion on it about potential issues, I know complications, et cetera. I think the problem, I mean, one of the things is that there's not a clear decision about who has to do it. Originally, it was thought that the providers could just do it, and then they can't do it because there's no API for it. So that kind of thing. But so in essence, really the idea is just that for the providers that provide a path that allow you to fetch secrets from a path that path would then be reflected in the volume. Um, and ESO, and the other thing I should mention, I guess, is that the external secrets operator has I think, a pretty good working implementation of this. The big problem there is that external secrets operator creates a secret, which is the the whole reason I'm using the secret store CSI provider. And and in fact, this path operation kind of lends itself nicely to a volume or a folder structure, so that's even nicer. Um, that's the so that's the summary of it. Let me know.
Okay. So this issue initially was created because the author wanted to have some kind of wildcard here, right? In the secret objects field, not this one specifically. So the thing is, like the parameters section that you're looking at, right? Within parameters, all the fields that are defined are like provider specific. So secret store driver does not mandate what these fields are, but rather each provider is allowed to decide what fields they want to put in. It's basically just like a map. And for instance, like in Azure provider, we don't have role name, vault address, or anything, right? Like we get in like what client ID do you want to use for the workload entity flow? Like which key vault do you want to access, and like what tenant does it live in, and then the objects is just an array that we take in as input. And in like for Azure, you have to define each one individually just because there is no API for us to like automatically list everything that exists in a key vault. Like we have to do individual gets to actually fetch the content. And I think I had mentioned it in that other issue on the Azure repo, right? Like we can't really do any wildcarding there just because like Key Vault doesn't support any API at all there. So
Uh-huh. So that sounds like, I mean, so the Azure provider would not be a candidate for this potentially, but the, I mean, Vault and AWS and probably Google Cloud. I haven't looked at each of the individual issues specifically, but the other thing I would look at, I would look at the external secrets operator implementation of this for Azure to see kind of what their solution is, because that's probably the best that can be done.
yeah,
Um,
but again, those are all provider specific things, right? Like, but this particular issue was not really about that, but rather this additional feature that we have today in the driver, which is optionally syncing as Kubernetes secrets. And there they wanted to like do some kind of wildcard and say like, hey, just do whatever file exists in the mount, also just sync all of them as Kubernetes secrets. So I don't have to repeat it over here.
right. You're saying,
Uh,
well,
sorry.
so the original, when this was proposed originally, there, if you, at the beginning of the discussion, then someone said, well, the providers could just do it. And then later someone said the providers can't do it because there's no way to provide a, a bulk of a batch of secrets back to the, to the root, whatever you want to call it, the manager. I don't know. I'm not sure the terminology between provider and manager, but anyway. So is there anything, so is there anything preventing a provider from implementing this now?
Not really, right? So the concepts are driver and provider, and then basically driver calls the provider and then passes the contents of a secret provider class and tells the provider like, hey, this is completely opaque to me. I don't understand anything inside of the parameters. So you go do your thing, right? And then the provider goes and talks to like Key Vault or like Secrets Manager or whatever at the back end, and then it can return a array of files. So like as part of your gRPC response, it basically says this is the path for the file, and then this is the content for the file. So that it's returned as part of the gRPC response, and that's an array. So you can like just have any number, right? So for instance, if you do it on the provider side, you would basically say like, hey, I want all secrets like star defined in this particular secret manager instance. And if the provider can go and get all of that, it'll get it, and then it'll just send that array back to the driver. And then at that point, the driver will write each individual file to the file system with the path that's provided by the provider.
So um, can we, can you look at the, one of the, like, can you look at like the Amazon provider issue corresponding to this and figure out there, the other one might, the other issue might have more conversation. I'm not sure. There's two of them listed, I think. Um,
I mean, they say they have support for batch operations.
oh, yeah, yeah. That's 23. Yeah, that's not the same. That's for the secrets manager, not for the parameter store. And that's not, and even though it's supported, that's not the provider that is providing it. But what I mean, so I mean, in it, Amazon provides the secret manager and parameter store. Parameter store in particular provides a whole recursive hierarchy to do this, and that's what I'm trying to expose through the driver. The So the question, the problem in these cases is that everyone is, I mean, as far as I've seen, everyone said, well, we can't do it. We need the driver to give us something. And that's what that's why I'm here trying to figure out where to pass the ball.
Can you tell me where they say the driver has to? Because the driver does not understand this field at all. Like, there's nothing that the driver can really do. Within parameters, driver does not understand any field defined in it.
Yeah, let's um oops. Yeah, I'll search for that.
Yeah, as much as I can remember, this issue was more around simplifying the secret provider class. Like instead of defining all the keys to be synced as Kubernetes secret, it was to wildcard there, which is driver's responsibility. But the reason we didn't move forward with that is we are moving secret sync to its separate project called the secret store sync controller. So
mm-hmm.
any of the changes that we propose would go into that project for that. Like the goal is in the future, driver will only mount volumes and do nothing more. And then if you have a use case where you also want Kubernetes secrets, then you would just use the sync controller with the secret provider class and another custom resource called secret sync.
Okay. Um
For clarity, should we be closing this issue for the reason you just said, Anish?
Yeah, I mean we can do that or move this to like secret sync controller. Like I suspect like someone might show up there and see if there's some way to wildcard. But I think there might be some confusion because none of this is driver's thing. All of this is provider specific because provider is the one that understands like what parameters it needs to use and what to fetch secrets, and then it can decide how it wants to get it. If there's like a batch API and all of those, like the driver is really dumb in these scenarios where it just waits to get like an array of files and just writes it. Apart from that, it doesn't do any translation or anything else.
yeah, okay. So the couple of interesting things there. One is if you back to the Amazon issue, number 46, then down at the bottom it looks like one of the maintainers says this seems to be a feature request in the driver repo. We're waiting on them to implement it. And then that, there's three hands up, three thumbs up for that. And then later it's marked as blocked by Simon, who I assume is one of the implementers or owners. Um,
No, but it's the same thing, right? So like they are talking about secret objects. They're not talking about the volume mount. So they are talking about instead of redefining all the data in secret objects to sync as Kubernetes secret, they just want to say everything that's in the file system, just sync that as a Kubernetes secret. Like they want to simplify there, and that's what they're referring to in the driver.
oh, okay, okay. So it may be, so I may have, okay, I hadn't considered that.
So this
The
field
other,
is totally under the control of the driver. So I can understand that, right? And like I mentioned, the reason we haven't moved forward with it is we want to remove this field eventually from the CRD because we're moving the feature away from the driver to a separate controller. And then the controller is already like there's a 0.0.1 release, and we're just going to like work towards a beta soon.
okay, yeah, this would, so yeah, I agree that I think it would be helpful to update that issue that I pointed, the issue in the driver repo that I pointed to, because that has all these thumbs up on it, all this history with it, and I'm still thinking this is the one that is blocked. And if there's another path that's going to be provided then I'd like to follow that one instead.
Yeah. So, but again, you said your use case is not to sync as Kubernetes secret. You wanted to still do the volume mount. So the driver is still the appropriate solution for you, but you just have to like see
Oh,
if the provider that is running can support it.
okay, so for me, well, I would still, I mean, other people are following this for other reasons, for example, and they might be confused about what's going on. But yeah, for my case, I would just go back to the AWS provider and push over there, tell them that they can do this.
Yeah, and then like the ESO one you mentioned is an example there, right? Because if they have already implemented the provider specific code to get things based on
Yeah,
wildcard, each provider can just do that.
yeah, got it. Is there an issue for this other project that you're talking about?
So there's already a project for it. So
Oh, okay.
to give you context, we presented this in SIGAuth, and then it's basically a SIGAuth sub-project now. And then we have a 0.0.1 release. There's a few items to work on to get feature parity with what driver supports today, and then also like add rotation support. But this is what we'll work towards pushing. So like we'll try to get this to beta, and once we do that, we can deprecate the feature for just sync in the driver. And then once this goes to like stable, then eventually we'll remove that feature from the driver. So if you want to mount, you use the driver. If you want to sync as Kubernetes secret, you use this.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Right. Well, thanks for the clarifying that, and thanks for your patience in explaining this.
No, thank you for bringing it up. So I'll add a summary on that issue and then probably close it out and have them just open an issue in the controller after they try something.
Okay.
But on the other provider ones, like let us know what you hear from them. And then for the Azure one, I can speak to it, just that it doesn't support it. Like I've been trying to push the Key Vault team to support it. There just isn't a good API. Like the only way would be like we have to have permissions to list every secret that's there and then do the filtering on the client side,
Mm-hmm.
do an individual get for each one that matches,
Right.
which is like just terrible.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Well, I'll hang out here if there's anything, maybe there's something else interesting. But thanks for discussing this.
Yeah. I think the next item, Micah.
Yeah, I just wanted to check on the requires republish status. I know we just released the 1.5, and I was hoping that requires republish might get into 1.6. I think the security benefits are significant.
Yeah.
In not like having the current permission of a create service account token on every node is not great. That's like basically an admin API,
Hmm. Yeah.
admin permission. And so leveraging the service account token from the kubelet for refresh is great.
Yeah. So I think we wanted to do that, and then so there's this PR. So I looked at it yesterday. There are like few things that need to be fixed in the logic. So I've
Hmm.
added comments. After they address it, we do plan to get this in 1.6. So like this,
Okay,
the
cool.
events will route for the rotation as well. So we'll get rid of the rotation controller and just rely on this.
Yeah. Would I haven't reviewed this PR closely. I did my own PR just because I didn't notice this one and I wanted to just try it out. Which we don't have to merge or anything. That's fine. But I haven't reviewed this code. Does it make the rotation controller configurable so you don't have to have that permission
We actually are getting rid of the rotation controller completely.
in this PR?
Yeah. So we get rid
Perfect.
of
Okay.
all token request and rotation, and everything just happens through request republish.
Does the secret provider even have any permissions at that point? Like RBAC permissions?
Only to create secrets today just because it still has its sync functionality, but we will eventually get rid of that.
Can we make is sync functionality mandatory or can that be
No, it's
configured
optional.
off? Okay. So we can someone could maybe there might be like some Helm templating to like
Yeah.
make that flag condition, make that permission conditional and make that flag conditional.
So we already
Um,
do that today. Like we don't do
okay,
the permissions by default. You have to explicitly say I want secret sync, and then we
got
give
it.
permissions.
Okay, perfect. So you could technically run this with zero RBAC permissions, delegate everything to the driver.
Yeah.
And if depending on what permissions your driver needs, maybe none, it could just use the service account token from the pod.
Hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. Do you want any help reviewing that PR? I haven't taken a pass on it, but I can.
Let them resolve these comments, and then I would love your review before we merge it. So
Okay, I can do that. Um, yeah, is there anything else that we're hoping to get into the next release, or is this the main feature?
this is the main feature in the next one.
Okay.
And then we are also going to push on the secret sync. So there are like folks volunteering to help out. So we're going to continue making progress on this one.
Okay. And just looking at like, do you see that as a 1.6 or as like a 1.5?
The
Uh,
driver one will be 1.6.
okay, okay.
Yeah, it'll be a minor.
Um, great. And do you like, I'm just trying to think about since that PR is already reviewed and you've reviewed it, I'll take another pass at it. Do you see that as like a when do you see a 1.6 happening? Just rough timeline,
If we
if
get the
that's the main feature.
PR merged soon enough, we can target it next month.
Okay.
So typically we do releases every 45 days.
Okay.
So that means this could be like end of May. Like, so they have time to finish all of this by then. And if we get it merged by end of May, we can have a release with it.
Okay. Cool. Um, great. Yeah, I think that, and maybe we'll do volume ID in there. We'll see.
Yeah.
Um,
If requires republish goes in, then I think it's fine to have volume ID because it's the same path for rotation and everything. So it'll be
right.
consistent.
Okay, cool. Yeah, that was the only topic I really wanted to bring up.
Cool. Anything else folks want to talk about?
I guess one question on the CI on that issue. I was getting failures and I couldn't, it didn't seem like it was something that was in my control.
Yeah, I
What
think
was
that
it?
was because we were hitting like quota limits.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. So
It was, yeah. So all the other tests passed. It was just the Windows one. Okay.
yeah. Yeah. So I just put this hold only for request republish to go in. But otherwise I'm okay with the changes.
Okay, cool.
Okay. So I think that is it. If there's nothing else, then we all get at least 30 minutes back. So
Thanks.
thank you,
Thanks.
everyone.